In 1543, the Drapers Company purchased from King Henry VIII a property here in the parish of St Peter le Port, now Throgmorton Street, and they paid £1,200 for that property. And this here is the legal conveyance document, the bargain and sale, conveying from the King to the Drapers Company the property. Now, in many ways, it's a rather uninspiring looking document, but there are some very interesting aspects to it. First of all, the Great Seal of the King hangs below, and there you can see Henry seated in splendour on his great throne. But the most special thing about it is the sign manual of Henry, his signature, up here in the top left-hand corner. So, of course, the building that the company was purchasing from the King had been the private house, the palace of Thomas Cromwell, Earl of Essex, Chief Minister to the Crown. And so whilst the bargain and sale of 1543 sadly has no plan attached to it, we do have plans attached to the deeds by which Cromwell purchased this land, and these are here. He bought the land in two segments, or two principal segments. The first from the Augustinian friars, and secondly from an Italian merchant called Antonio Vinaldi. And so here, attached to these two separate deeds, we have very simple but clear, defined outline plans for the two properties that he was purchasing, giving measurements and orientation. Next, we have the company's own minutes, dating to the period of them purchasing the property in 1543. And we have in great detail a beautiful description of what they were actually buying. The minutes record a fair, great gateway that led you through to a fair yard. There was a ladies' chamber, a parlour, a great banqueting hall. You ascended up a staircase that actually had glazed windows. And finally, we have this very early 17th century ground floor plan for the property. It's quite faded, but it's well worth looking at. It's written on vellum, which is a sheepskin. It's written in English. So what we see is that central courtyard down here. Arrayed around it are storerooms, rooms that are let to tenants. But in the corner, you can see that great staircase mentioned in the minutes. From how the courtyard is decorated, you really get a good sense that the great banqueting hall on the eastern side of that courtyard is a very magnificent space. Dotted throughout the remainder of the building are several other much smaller courtyards. We have a passageway leading up on the western side of the building, leading to the great garden which extends to the northwest. And here on the very western side of the garden, we have a bowling alley extending north to south. One other very lovely detail about this plan is that not only does it give us an indication of how many of the rooms are used, but also an insight into the character of the building. We have many staircases detailed, including some that have actually been cut in, demonstrating that they're basement staircases. So whilst we don't know for sure what Cromwell's house, Drapers Hall as it became, looked like, these documents we've been looking at do give a fair indication. Now in 1993, an architect called Robert Chitham, he reviewed these same documents and he drew what he interpreted the hall would have looked like. And the end result is here beside me, this very splendid drawing. At the top, you can see Robert's interpretation of what Cromwell's house would have actually looked like, or at least the front elevation of it. Below are the subsequent iterations of Drapers Hall that have followed. Robert has looked at plans and minutes, and here we have the post-Great Fire Hall, the post-1772 Fire Hall, all the way through to the modern-day hall as it appears today out in Throgmorton Street.